So I heard about the triple challenge. That's kind of what I have. Following a CTO, which is a tough job. The CTO is going to meet my MD and then lunch. And then in the middle of all this, doesn't matter. And then the last challenge is keeping you from lunch. So I'm trying to get a cloudy picture into everybody's head. So I'll try. Quick agenda. This is what we'll go through quickly. Try to stay put here. Let's begin with a quick little story about how all these things fall into place. A patient comes to see the doctor for the second time. The doctor goes through the case history and asks him, "Have you ever fainted?" He said, "Yes, very definitely yes." "How?" "When I got your bill." "So why did you show up again if you thought I was expensive?" "Oh, you do a good job of treating people." So we have all been in those situations, right? When we want to do something really cheap for the value that is extremely good. So in a way, that's kind of what the cloud is trying to address. How can we be better at what we do without fainting? Okay? So we'll try and cover some of this, and I'll share with you some of what we do in Nokia to give you a real life feel of what cloud can do. It's not a myth anymore, right? It's something that people actually use. And I make a living off that without fainting yet. So it's real. Cloud is, as a concept, is not new. It's existed in several facets before. When we all started using the network several years ago, in a way it was a cloud. When it was some form of harbinger of what the cloud is. The evolution after that was the World Wide Web. When we got content, for those of you who have some gray hairs and you have used internet several years before, when you paint a picture, you first saw the leg coming and then the left hand coming several years ago. Right? I mean, that's a classic case of cloud, where an information, www.yahoo.com was sent out, and the information went, spread across several networks, collated the information and painted it back on your screen. Now that's cloud. You had no idea about what was going on when you submitted that URL. Right? So in a way, these things have existed, but what is making it real now is the fact that businesses that need to use it for some sensitive transactions are beginning to use it. The trust level is beginning to build up. So as a concept, the first paper in distributed computing was written in 1972. So distributed computing, of which cloud computing is born, is not new. It is just that it's becoming a lot more real now. Medieval days, we started using it for downloading content. All the news, several of us used to go and read the newspapers. And then, not too distant past, we also started to put some amount of processing onto the system. But this is what we do at present, right? Where we actually trust these systems to not just process, but also to store. Right? When you do an online transaction in your bank, using your bank, when you do online transaction using credit card, when you buy a movie ticket, there is content that you are sharing. There is, when you buy books from Amazon stores your credit cards. Right? You're sharing content. The amount of trust has significantly increased. So, what does this mean in terms of what are some of the problems that cloud is trying to solve? Right? Growing costs and complexity. Development cycle. I mean, this is a common problem in every infrastructure environment. Right? Is cloud attempting to solve this? Yes. The tussles with operations. Something broke, I have no idea where it broke. That can happen in cloud also, but clouds are self-healing, and I wish I had a little more time to talk about this, but not that these problems don't happen in the new environment. It's much easier for us to handle these as it happens, right? Developer tussles. And how much time we spend building systems doing the same thing. Right? I remember while writing SQL code several years ago, that writing an exception handler was a common thing you had to do for every little piece of code that you wrote. Wouldn't it be great to be able to abstract all of those out? Right? So, a classic study that was done by the University of Berkeley. This again comes down to how we spend our time productively, right? Two people were digging a trench on the road. Really busy. One person was digging and the other person was closing it. So a gentleman was trying to take a morning walk, looked at it and said, this is funny. Somebody is digging and somebody is closing right behind. So he observes, morning time, pleasant time to stand outside and observe, and goes to the next door, and the exact same thing happens. Exact same thing happens. So he had to go and ask them, look, tell me what is going on. So they explained, yeah, I'm supposed to dig, somebody else is supposed to plant, and the third person is supposed to put the mud back. But the person who is supposed to plant took a day off. Right? We have all been in those situations where we tend to work really hard and move backwards. We work really hard, but we move backwards. And that's kind of what we do in the computer world. When you have infrastructures that you use, build, provision, that's exactly what you do. I mean, you work really hard. I stayed up very late until 2 o'clock yesterday night. To do what? To get a machine up and running. Why? Because there is a release tomorrow, day after tomorrow, that I have to get my machine up and running. So, can we abstract some of those and do it much down so that we don't have to invest time every time we need to do something to release something? Let's not be digging and closing, right? Let's actually plant something in between. So what is cloud? Cloud is very simply this, right? That's all it means. Again, it's not a new concept at all. It is the way we are using it and the way we are solving business problems that is new, right? So cloud is really about driving innovation. I think several people talked about it, and Anand touched upon it pretty nicely in one of his core themes. The only way you can advance in business these days is by innovating. Right? He talked about analytics, which is a great passion for me, that I've spent the last 10 years of my life doing that. It's amazing what all you can discover when you analyze data in large amounts. Right? I mean, the trends, and nice story that he shared about a father and his daughter is very true. Right? I mean, that's the power of analytics. And when you analyze, when you do things that you have to do correctly, you innovate. When you innovate, that's the only way for you to live in business. No other choice. Absolutely no other choice. Right? Several companies, including some companies we work for, lose sight of that. And that's when innovation becomes a problem, that's when you lose. But how do you innovate? I mean, if I have to spend a lot of time trying to do the basics, I don't have time to innovate. So that's what cloud does. In a way, if you paraphrase this, what cloud is attempting to do is take away the basics, put them somewhere down, so that you can do what the business needs to do. So it's a great thing for all the SMEs that are trying to innovate and come up with new business ideas. I don't want to worry about what I have to do to install a machine or a software or provision it. That's somebody else's problem. And get it done right and put the risk on somebody else's shoulder who can do it. And then think about what my business can do to generate more revenue, to come up with bright ideas, to beat the competition. That's kind of what cloud does. Quick example, a company that had absolutely no infrastructure became very profitable in 9 months. And Redbus is also a classic case in the Indian context of a company that used cloud very, very effectively. Right, so we have companies, I work with a few startups that are actually using cloud for doing a lot of their computation. It's phenomenal, right? It's very interesting to see the amount of innovation of taking a business idea and not worrying about what computing power I need to make that business a reality, right? It's wonderful. I actually wish our PWD engineers and people learn about this. I mean, the way the roads are laid, infrastructure is pathetic. Something that is profitable in 9 months, soups to nuts, right? Another classic use case, we won't spend a lot of time on this, but I was involved when I was in Yahoo in doing this. It was amazing how very quickly we put a few pieces together to achieve something which would have costed them a couple of $1 million to do. So please read this up if you're interested about how cloud actually helped them do something for about $80. Right, $2 million and $80 because they used free Hadoop software. What do we do? These are some of the things that are critical for Nokia. We process a large amount of data. Everybody who has a cell phone, and as Anand was talking, phones does not need to be smart. Phones always generate data, right? So if we can understand about what people are doing with their phones, it makes our phones much more appealing to people who want to buy. So we are spending a significant amount of time trying to collect customer data and doing a lot of analysis. The key thing to remember is that when you do cloud, you become very agile on a base that is very stable, right? I mean, these are contradictory. Agility and stability are two contradictory things. You got to do things perfectly to be stable, and you can't be agile, right? So there's a trade-off. But what the cloud does is allows you to do both. You have to be agile because you have to be fast and quick. I have an idea, I have to test it, I have to get it to the market. If you don't, somebody else will. You don't have a choice, right? So, but how do I do that on a platform that is really stable so that I can do what I intend to do? That's the conflict. Until cloud technology came on board, that conflict remained a conflict that could not meet. But now we have a situation where agility and stability actually meet. Right? So that is the key piece that any company, any SME, big company, doesn't matter, can use. Right? For us, these are some of the areas where we use cloud in a very, very strong way. I collaborate with a lot of universities to try and do some of these. For example, mining. Right? We have operational excellence. Just to give you an example, earlier days we had 1 for 50 machines. Today with cloud we have 1 operations engineer for 2,000 machines. We can get to that scale. Right? 1 to 2,000 versus 1 to 50. Phenomenal. And Anand was talking about cost, going green and all that. All these add up. And the last session, I came in towards the end of the last session, somebody asked about benefits of cloud or what are the disadvantages of cloud. Here are some of those. Right? Again, the last bullet. No infrastructure cost for infrequent peaks. Something we couldn't do earlier without clouds. Right? How can I automatically scale without having to buy machines, provision them, which is a 3-month cycle. You order, you get the best code, then you get the machines, then you provision it, by then your application is moved. It's 3 months. Right? It's like our road construction, infrastructure construction. By the time the road is built, the traffic is already exceeded. You can't have that situation in an agile environment. If you say agile, you got to be very quick. So how do you do that? Those are some of the advantages of what cloud can do. So we effectively use cloud for doing a lot of what we have to do right now. I don't think we can do it without using cloud. I want to take another quick 1 minute to share a story and leave you with an important message. A lobster was dating a crab. And the lobster's dad said, crabs don't fit into this. Because the crab walks sideways, right? The lobster's dad said, no way, this doesn't fit. It's not our paradigm. So the lobster tells, look, honey, got to change. Right? So the crab spends a lot of time trying to learn how to walk straight. So the D-Day comes, the lobster, her dad are looking, and the crab walks straight. The dad says, no way, the crab is drunk. Right? The dad is not willing to accept the change that somebody could actually change. So that's the shift we all have to undergo when we look at cloud. Right? All of us, I underwent that crab phenomenon, or lobster's dad phenomenon. Where can this really happen? But I can assure you that I used cloud in Amazon. We are part of the team that built it. We again built cloud in Yahoo, which we use for. How many of you use the Yahoo Mail? How many of you have seen an improvement in the spam filter? Right? I mean, spam has become extremely good. You don't get, most of your spam mail actually goes to the spam folder. That's because of cloud and Hadoop. Right? So there are real use cases of making people's lives better. And in Nokia, we use it a heck of a lot to do all the things we need to do. So cloud is real. It's a little cloudy, but it is real. Right? So good luck and use it. Embrace the change. Don't be the lobster's dad.